On today's show, the guys are back from FETC and about with the flu.
I'm back in the saddle again.
We're looking forward to talking about who we met and what we learned and what's ahead. All that up next, along with the Google Tip of the Week on EduTechGuys. EduTechGuys Radio, radio.edutechguys.com.
The opinions expressed under the site and its programs are those of participants and not intended to and do not necessarily reflect the opinions of any specific educational entity, sponsor, company, state, or government agency.
Hello and welcome to EduTechGuys Radio. Good afternoon. I'm your host, David Henderson.
Hey, and I'm Jeff Madlock.
And it is so good to be back in the studio, in front of the mics, hanging out after having an awesome time at FETC. I mean, it was absolutely incredible. And then afterward, not so much.
Yeah, I'm concerned you might still have some lingering effects of the flu. I don't know what studio you're talking about.
Well, the room we're in.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Any room that we're in where the microphones are.
Studio A at
That's
the
right.
Southwest Co-op.
It's the Sue Studio.
Hey, I'm Jeff Madlock, and we are glad to be back on the air. It's been almost 2 weeks, 3 weeks since we've been on the air. And it's good to be back in Arkansas, L.A., Lower
right.
Arkansas. Hey, remember to follow us on the web at edutechguys.com, edutechguys.com. You can also find us anywhere on the net. Just go to Google, type in EduTechGuys, and I promise you we'll come up. We're out there, Instagram.com, Twitter.com, Facebook.com/EduTechGuys. You can find us. Or head over to the website, drop down to the bottom of the page, and fill out the contact form and let us know what you think, what you're doing. And heck, while you're there, go ahead and subscribe to the website. You'll get some good stuff coming to you from us.
Yeah, awesome stuff. Just remember, there's a U in there, EduTechGuys, because without you, it's just EdTech.
Wait, the cheese just hit me in the face.
Hey, I'm over the flu. I can do cheese now.
So yeah, it's been a while, and we're glad to be back. We had a very eventful FETC. We did over 85 interviews in 4 days, and it was one hectic barn burner of an educational learning experience.
Yeah, it really was. But from our perspective, one of the best things, there are a couple of what I'm going to call best things, which I know it seems like, how can you have multiple best? But seriously, there are several things that stand out when we're doing live conference coverage, and especially at a conference like FETC. We get to meet new folks that we hadn't met. We get to revisit with folks who we've known, maybe we met them last year, or some folks we've known for several years now, and a couple of folks even much longer than that. And, it's awesome to sit down, shake hands, and have a conversation.
Yeah, it was really great to see some old faces and talk about the new things that those old faces are doing, and then meet a lot of new people this year. It was really interesting. Adaptive Technologies was a big hit this year. And I said it probably way too much throughout the entire conference, but technology's finally caught up with education, and that was clearly evident this year at FETC.
Yeah, absolutely. And another common theme was folks who are seasoned teachers who, for all intents and purposes, at least in terms of the years they've put in, some of them have they've been in the profession for 35, 38 years, and their position has been refocused over into something EduTech related, and they're like brand new teachers all over again, and they're so excited about where this new chapter of their teaching life is going.
Yeah, my old superintendent used to call them, a former superintendent used to call them retreads. So, and it's created a whole bunch of retreads in the technology integration. It's created a lot of teachers that have a whole new, and it's good to see that happening, because I believe when you take a teacher who learned to teach with a book and a chalkboard, and they get excited about technology integration, then they're the ones, and they were there at FETC, they're the ones leading sessions, talking to the younger generation about, well, this is the way I used to do it, and this is the way I do it now. Yeah. Which that's a really huge big deal. That's big. Still, what's big is maker spaces, and we talked to a lot of folks that are doing that, and David and I are actually talking about several ideas rolling around in our head about, the makerspace movement and our pros and our cons about, what's happening there. So watch for a show in the future. We'll probably discuss that.
Yeah. And what's also interesting about talking with folks and some of the other stuff that we got out of FETC is as we're talking to folks, we get to learn so much more. And I don't. This is not knocking the conference at all. It's just the way that we participate, by providing the live coverage. We don't get to go to the sessions. We don't get to go see the posters. We don't get that. But by visiting with over 80 people to sit down and share, we get to experience FETC almost like vicariously, right? We get to live it vicariously through the folks who share their stories. I mean, as crazy as it sounds, we basically attended 80 plus sessions at FETC just from the conversations that we had.
Yep, that's exactly right. And it was interesting. David's like, we got like this hyper injected summary of, what's happened to them. And it's really, especially if they're the ones that are the presenters, which most of our folks that said in the hot seat they were presenters. So we get this hyper, super sensitive, boom. It just happened. Most of the time it had already happened or was getting ready to. So they were real hyped up about it. So we got exactly the key points to it, which was really, really nice.
Well, and kind of by extension of, or a combination of the last two things that you just talked about, we had a lot of folks that were there. Some folks were there for the very first time, but there were a lot of folks that we talked to who had been there. This is either a second time or maybe they've been a few times, and they decided to be a presenter this time.
Yep.
Which I thought was phenomenal. I mean, here you have a conference that, you're growing your own presenters from the attendees who come to the conference.
Yep.
It is awesome.
Something interesting also happened this time, and it's something David and I have talked about a lot, and it was actually, I think to us, it was kind of highlighted this time by a few of our guests that sat down. Two of those guests were Cyberry Man and Tom Whitby.
Oh, yeah.
And, they have some negative stuff to say about what's going on in education. And I think when you have some seasoned veteran educators like those guys are, who've been doing it a lot, for some time and are still cutting edge in their own right, talking about, this is still wrong and this doesn't need to be talked about and we need to get away from this. Not about FETC, not at all. That was more FETC, excuse me. It's hard to break an old habit.
Yeah.
But it was interesting to hear them talk about the things that they noticed in education that are a problem. And in conjunction with that, how ISTE and FETC and those larger ones are starting to address those things.
Yeah.
And smart enough to bring in both Tom and Cyberry Man were both there as bloggers. Yeah. As reporters, as give us your opinion on what's happening, because that's and that's what I noticed about the people in the bloggers room. David and I were also considered as bloggers,
right?
But we're there to also give our opinion on what's happening, good or bad,
right?
The interesting thing for us though is that we went in booked, so we got those people that we knew were going to sit down. And we got their take on what was happening at FETC. Yeah, I think we hit the exhibit floor for maybe 45 minutes if we were lucky.
Yeah, I think the second night that it was open, I think we were able to go down there. By the time we got done wrapping up, we were able to spend about 45 minutes walking around. Which if you've not been, I can tell you right now that 45 minutes on the exhibitor floor is the equivalent of, and I'm just going to say this. It's the equivalent of about, 3 booth visits?
Yeah, it's equivalent of going to Disney World and going to the Magic Kingdom and just getting to walk around the castle and then have to leave.
Yeah,
that's
about it.
You just made it into the gate past you made it down Main Street and you got to go.
Yeah,
so,
I
didn't get on any of the rides. What happened?
Yeah.
I missed the Nearpod and I missed Bunsey. What happened? I didn't get to ride the Go Guardian ride. What happened? I didn't see that. That's right.
No, I will say we did get to spend an extended amount of time with the folks at Khajiit.
Yeah, Khajiit.
Which actually, the Education Service Center where I work, we are the Arkansas reseller for Khajiit, or an Arkansas reseller for Khajiit, and Hope Public Schools, where Jeff is the technology coordinator, they use Khajiit. So it was a great conversation.
Yeah. The conference was beautiful. It was well run as always. It was really interesting this year. We actually had a social media person with us, and that made our job so much easier. It's interesting when you realize that you sit for 4 hours and you talk to people straight and with no break, and it actually goes by really quick.
Oh, it went by so quickly, and I have to say that at least in my mind, I attribute that to the guests that we had.
Yeah.
When it's just Jeff and I sitting there, when there's not a guest, sometimes it gets a little long, even just a 15-minute span.
Yeah.
But when we have not only just guest after guest, but guests with awesome content. I mean, the stories they were sharing and the things they're doing in classes and all the nuggets that we got from folks. Time really flew by.
Yeah. It was like, and at the end of the day, I can tell you, teachers know this already. When you talk all day, it wears you out.
Yeah.
I mean, it really does. And what's really interesting about what we do is that we have to be spot on the whole time. So it's like doing 4 lectures an hour every 15 minutes.
Yeah.
And so you got to put your hat on, you got to think, you got to participate. But I can tell you the biggest reward for us is twofold. One, we learn so much. Holy smokes. It's like I said, it's hypersensitive. Boom, we're right in and out. The other part is that we're noticing that more educators are getting past that problem of telling their own story, of really getting across what they want to share, and they're not afraid to do it. And it's kind of interesting. This doesn't really necessarily have anything to do with the FETC, but it's something we talked about. And I'd mentioned it to someone at a company just the other day. What's really interesting about our teachers is people wonder why school districts have a problem with teachers having teacher websites and things like that.
Sure.
And more people wonder why they don't sit down and talk to us when we're, sitting there waiting to be, interviewed or interview them and that kind of stuff. The written word is still very scary to a lot of people. And I even have, some major hang-ups with the written word. Did I spell that right? And I'm very, 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 very guilty of misspellings out there and things like that. And it makes you nervous. But we're starting to luckily see some teachers that aren't as afraid to do that. And now that we have video and audio and, this ability to vidcast and podcast, and now I think they're getting past that fear. Because, used to, they just had to keep those 30 kids entertained.
Right.
And that was, I can write for these kids. But, when you're writing for parents and peers and talking about that. But I can tell you, from last year to this year, we doubled in the amount of interviews we had.
Easily. If not more.
If not tripled,
I don't know if it was triple. Well, I guess it could have been.
It was probably double.
But it was definitely, a huge change. And I also think part of that is that I believe anyway that the concept of voice, student voice, teacher voice, leader voice, has really taken hold. And so what we're finding is a lot of educators who might not have been as willing to step up and sit down and start to talk suddenly realize that there are other folks who are just like them, just like they are, who are sitting down and speaking up and just sharing what they're doing in their classrooms or at their district, or depending on what level they are within the hierarchy of the school. But they're sitting down and it's okay to share your story, and it's in feeling more comfortable in doing that. And I really do. I think things like blogging, I think things like microblogging. I mean, with Twitter and Facebook and Instagram and all the other, grams and ers that are out there, folks are able to share their thoughts in little bitty chunks. Even the conversations that we had, for the most part, they are 10 to roughly 15 minutes apiece. In the scheme of the day, that's a very small fraction. So, you're sharing your story in just this tiny little nugget. And one of the things that we've been doing lately, if you've not caught it, then by all means jump out to our Twitter feed and scroll on through. we have gone back and pulled quotes from the folks that we talked with who shared their story, and we are helping them share the story they shared because we are sharing out their individual conversation that's available on or through EduTechGuys website.
Yeah, that's boom.
Yeah.
So we're glad to be back. It was really kind of terrible. We got back and we had a day off before we started back to our regular 9 to 5s.
Yeah.
And then we both got sick that first day.
Yes. Yeah.
So
well,
we were probably incubating it in the car ride.
Yeah. Nothing like being, nothing like driving 18 hours in a car cooped up and not realizing that the flu is among us.
Typhoid Mary sitting right next to me over here. So
no, I was just going to say, you were actually sick that Monday we got back, and then it hit me Tuesday.
Yeah.
And then it wiped us both out. I mean,
it just hit us hard.
So I'm very thankful that it did not hit this guy, Tyler. This guy.
Yeah.
Tyler JH7. Tyler is the social media guy we took with us. I'm glad, at least as far as we can tell, he didn't get it.
Yeah.
So I guess that he's young.
It's just old people that get it. So that's great. That's what got us. Now I feel old again. I have to look at this old face every morning. No, so it's good to be back, and the shows will be back on and running. This is actually our first one back for since after that. It's not the first one for the new year, but it is one back after FETC. We have a lot coming up down the road, which we'd like to talk to you about, I guess, right now. There's some stuff coming up pretty quickly, and if you want to see us live or you're going to be at one of these places, the next one that we have coming up is
the 2018 East Conference, and that's going to be in March in Hot Springs, Arkansas.
And then we have the Springdale Innovation Institute, which is coming up in June. We'll be there. We have a lot more coming up after that. We have Flipgrid Live in Minneapolis. That's Flipgrid Live 2018. That's July 31st to August 1st. And there's a lot more coming on the books. We met a lot of new friends, met a lot of new faces, made a lot of new followers, and so we're currently in the throes of booking more stuff. And so as we get those out there, you can check the website or Twitter, or you can just listen to the podcast, and we'll tell you where we're going to be.
That's right. And speaking of those special guests, that's one of the things that we hope to do more of in 2018, and that is bring some of those folks that we met and that we meet at these different conferences onto the program for just some one-on-one time, where they can share more of their story with you guys. You guys get to know them a little better and delve a little deeper into the stories that they want to share.
And something we haven't done in a while, but it's time to do now, is the
Google Tip of the Week.
It's funny how we've done that all this time.
Yeah. And I have no idea where that came from.
By the way, that was some great Mel Torme sent and stuff.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, you're welcome. Right. So if you don't follow Google's blog, Google has a wonderful Google blog for education. You can go blog.google/education and find it. But one of the great topics that showed up on there that means a lot, not to just teachers and educators, but to the techs that also make sure that education keeps going, is some new tools, some new G Suite for education updates that came out. And some of them are really pretty cool. There's some great stuff for data loss prevention. They've got some new stuff there, with some advanced capabilities such as OCR recognition for content stored in images, which is really, really pretty cool. Also, there's some security key management and enforcement. That's for the tech guys out there. Hosted Gmail and SMIME. That gives them to really do some interesting stuff with digitally signed and encrypted emails. So that's a really neat thing that's out there.
Yeah.
But there's some great new stuff out there in the G Suite Enterprise for Education. Really cool stuff coming out that they turned out for mobile device management to help those schools that are doing some BYOD stuff out there. A lot of schools are doing that. Really, really cool unified search experiences within G Suite for cloud search. So it's their new machine intelligence that's powering it. Cloud search, it surfaces personalized information that helps users stay on top of important work and like meetings and stuff that they're doing, classroom work and things like that. Gmail logs, that's a big one. Security Center. Here's a really cool one. So Hangouts Meet now supports up to 50 participants in a Hangout. That's a lot of people in a hangout.
Jeez.
What's really cool about it is you can now record those meetings and save them to drives, like a team drive or something,
Nice.
so that people that missed the meeting or need to go back and make notes. And on top of that, they've allowed a dial-in feature in Meet. So if you're on a phone, you can actually dial in audio and be a part of the hangout meeting also. So that's really, 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 really cool. So that's some new stuff that's coming out for G Suite and the Enterprise for Education. I think it's some really happening stuff, and I thought I'd like to share it here.
Yeah, that is very cool stuff.
Because we like to share, baby. So
sharing is caring.
Sharing is caring. There's the funny. Were you waiting this whole time for the funny? I think David and I are still under the effects of Tamiflu, so we're not as funny as we normally are.
Well, and
you had a day, but that's like another show.
Was that another show? Okay.
But yeah, you had a day that, well, I was, in my summary of it is he had a day that was a prime example of the organization of education. I'm sorry, the organizational skills of educators.
I will concur.
Now, the interesting thing is that organization was secondary education. You know, when I say secondary, I mean 9 through 12.
High school, yeah, okay.
Had that been primary teachers, it would have been organized to the hilt.
Oh, I thought you were going to say it would be mass chaos.
Oh, no. Had it been my primary students, well, it'd have been like herding cats. But no, I mean, if it had been primary teachers, it would have been
I see what you're saying.
Color coded, lined up.
Oh,
and
you're right.
Everything would have been like, you're 3 seconds behind schedule, mister.
Yeah,
you're
right.
out.
Yeah, yeah. They would have booted me off stage.
It'd have been Thunderdome, 2 men enter, 1 man leave. It'd have been all over it. Hey, listen, thanks for listening to the ramblings of these guys.
That's right, man. We appreciate it so much.
It's been a great show.
Yeah, man. Thank you guys so much for listening. Remember, you can find us online at edutechguys.com. Follow us on Twitter, twitter.com/edutechguys. And as we say, just go to Google, type in EduTechGuys, and that's us.
That is. Hey, I'm Jeff Madlock.
I'm David Henderson.
We'll catch you next time.
You've been listening to EduTech Guys Radio, radio.edutechguys.com.
The opinions expressed on the site and its programs are those of participants and not intended to and do not necessarily reflect the opinions of any specific educational entity, sponsor, company, state, or government agency.